Somewhere just beyond the beach, on the border between the nation of sharks and the nation of humans, is a place where few people dare to trespass. This empire, covering 7/10 of the Earth's surface, has been ruled by the same dynasty for 300 million years. It is here that Ron and Valerie Taylor live the lives of double agents, human envoys in the world of the shark, shark diplomats in the world of the humans, peacemakers in the war between the two greatest predators on Earth. The assignment was to accompany the Taylors on an undersea safari, to witness their encounters with the sharks, and to see what lay behind this extraordinary relationship between two people and a universally feared animal. It was to be a journey full of irony, some of it tragic. It seemed the more that was learnt about the animal, the more mysterious it became. The assignment began with the Taylors on a filming expedition on the Great Barrier Reef. Ron and Valerie have been married 25 years, married to each other and married to the sea. Their family is the marine world and all its creatures. But it is the shark that has brought them their fame, and their destiny has been entwined with it.
Yeah, Ron looks at the shark through the camera. He wants the shark to make a beautiful picture, and I try to make the shark perform for the camera. We work with the shark in a different way, but we both understand it, well as it's possible to understand a shark.
Oh yeah, we appreciate them now as the magnificent animal they are.
One of the things that I wanted to do on the trip was teach my best friend's daughter to dive. I just wanted to take her out and have fun with her, which is exactly what I did. It's easy to teach children to dive anywhere because they believe you. And if there's sharks around and you say, don't worry about the shark, it's not going to hurt you, they believe you. Children are fantastic. They trust you.
But there is no covenant between shark and human. And on the Sunday, a week after the assignment began, tragedy struck at a beach in South Australia.
The dead woman had been snorkeling with her husband for scallops when the attack took place. Her 4 children were playing on a nearby beach. The woman was ripped in two, with the shark firstly taking the lower half of her body and then returning to devour the remains of the torso. One witness to the horror accident, Kevin Wiseman, said the whole incident was over before anyone could offer any help.
The first thing we saw was a terrific big splash, about 150 yards off the rocks. We all jumped up and looked, we're out there. So the next minute, there's another big splash, and this girl's legs flew in the air.
Oh my God.
Like that, see? And then down it went like this.
It's just astounding, actually. No, she was just such shallow water. You'd never think a shark would come in there in a fit. Not a big shark.
The other diver in the water near Shirley Ann Durden was Keith Coventry. It was almost certain that her death meant his survival.
Then I heard her shout and looked up probably 20, 30 feet away, and there she was, extremely high out of the water. Her waist was extremely high. And I started swimming towards her and then looked up again, probably got half a dozen strokes, looked up again, and I saw this big fin and dorsal fin and just saw her go under.
So then there's a hell of another big swirl, and there's a big spray of water come up covered in blood, full of blood, red, you know. So about a minute and a half after, Kevin got there in his boat, and he's just circled this half a body floating on top of the water, about 5 metres away, I suppose. And he was turning around, and the shark came straight up like that, boom, and grabbed the other half of the girl's body. There was only one arm on it, no head, and just the rest of her body. When he said it was going down, you could see it chomping on this girl, and about 3 parts of her arm was still sticking out of its jaw, like that.
Just ate her, just finished it, gone. It was just nothing. It was that quick, it was incredible. You just...
Seven South Australians have been killed by shark attacks in modern times. Locals say the beach will not be safe until the shark is caught, claiming such fish are creatures of habit and will return to the area.
I was very glad I went to Port Lincoln because I felt that in the interviews that I gave that I was representing the shark. Although I felt that that shark would be better off killed for the community in general, you know, I kept saying it's a crime to go out and just kill sharks because of the behaviour of one shark. If a murder's committed, you don't go and just kill people because one person committed a murder. As this woman said to me, it's a witch hunt for sharks.
But there was something especially ironic about this attack. For this is Port Lincoln, a peaceful little fishing town in South Australia where the live shark sequences for Jaws were filmed. And it was Ron and Valerie Taylor who filmed them. Now, 10 years later, the fear and horror that the film created had come back to haunt the town.
I stood on that jetty and I thought, this is unbelievable. All these bullets and guns and gung-ho men strutting their stuff. There they were, all 10-minute shark experts, 10-minute film stars, everybody in front of the camera, puffing out their chests and waving their tuna and their tins of whale oil and their huge hooks and saying what they were going to do and how they were going to do it. It was more like Jaws than Jaws, I thought.
It's been a non-stop hunt for the white pointer, with at least 6 local game fishing boats out of the waters near where Mrs. Durden was killed last Sunday. Although the search has been described as akin to looking for a needle in a haystack, the fishermen are confident they'll catch the giant fish sooner or later. Throughout the last 24 hours, they've spread a foul-smelling concoction of whale and tuna oil mixed with blood over the waters. It's assumed this will attract the shark back to the area. 44-gallon drums have also been laid in the water. Attached to them are giant hooks baited with small tuna. Again, it's hoped this will act as a bait to lure the white pointer back, where he can then be caught and shot with a high-powered rifle.
Even the professional shark fishermen joined in the hunt, setting a net across the beach where the attack took place.
Might be a bit of luck, the big bugger might be in there even. No, he's a killer. So now he's had a taste, he'll probably be looking around for more. Easy tucker. He's a killer, all right, isn't he?
Absolutely, yes.
I've got a wife and 2 children. If it happened to me, well, I don't reckon I'd ever stop till he was caught.
That night, Carcharodon carcharias, the great white death, tore a 10-metre hole in the net and returned to the open sea. Port Lincoln, a few days after the attack. For some time, the Taylors have been planning to go on an expedition to film the white shark, to make a television commercial, and perhaps a chance for Ron to fulfill an ambition to swim in the open with a great white. They load a prototype of a new submersible for sea trials, cages for filming the sharks, half a ton of tuna, 10 barrels of whale oil, and a horse to feed the sharks. Perhaps it isn't the best time to begin an expedition, but they decide to go ahead. Their home for the next 2 weeks is a 30-metre steel tuna boat. The location is the cold, windswept waters of South Australia.
In South Australia I was born. Hey, the way, all the way.
They lay a trail of chum out from Port Lincoln in the hope that a shark might pick it up and follow the boat.
I'm bound for South Australia. Heave away, you ruler king, heave away, all away. Heave away, now hear me sing, I'm bound for South Australia. They run by night, they run by day. Heave away, all away. They run 'em in the middle, and we're bound for South Australia. Heave away, you ruler king.
So this is the Great Southern Ocean. For the ancient mariners, it was one of the most dangerous places on Earth. They believed that if the sea didn't claim you, then the sharks would be sure to. Nothing was more feared or detested than these demons from the deep. The first European to chart these waters, Matthew Flinders, lost 8 men without trace when their boat capsized. It's most likely that they were taken by the white sharks. The names the sailors left behind read like a litany of tragedy. Coffin Bay, Memory Cove, Cape Catastrophe, and the place where we are going, Dangerous Reef. It was here, 20 years ago, that Ron first began filming the great white from a precarious perch on the back of the boat. The white shark in a feeding pattern will attack anything in its way. Ron quickly learnt that the only safe way to film these sharks was to get in the water with them, so he built himself a cage.
They look at us. When they swim around, I can see that great big black eye looking. There's not much expression in it, but they know that we're looking at them.
The great white has only one natural enemy, other great whites. Visitors to Dangerous Reef are not as common today as they were a few years ago, when the seals were ruthlessly hunted by shark fishermen who used them as bait. The seals are protected now and their numbers are increasing. But it's going to take a little more time to win back their trust.
I remember it was here where we shot Jaws. We had the baits floating out the back, and we waited several days before the sharks came.
We figured that it was just going to be some sort of a silly fictional film not many people would see. We had no idea that there'd be such a reaction.
It was so good that people believed it. And suddenly there was a vendetta against sharks, particularly white sharks. And Jaws was only a fairy story. It wasn't meant to be true.
Their shark was supposed to be about 25 feet long, but the sharks that we can get around Port Lincoln are only about 14 feet long. Hollywood got a half-size man
Called Carl Rizzo. He was a jockey from America.
and built half-size cages, small tanks, and everything was scaled down so that our sharks would appear to be about 25 feet long. When Carl saw our sharks, he was very unhappy. He told me that he was going to have severe words with his agent when he got back home.
After 2 days of baiting the water, they realised that Dangerous Reef is too close to the hunting grounds of Port Lincoln. No white shark would linger here.
The pair of male great white pointers were caught in water less than 3 metres deep. The bait and hooks had only just been laid by Queensland hunter Vic Hislop on his return to Wiseman's Beach, where Shirley Durden met her gruesome death. Mr Hislop is quite sure he hasn't yet caught the killer.
Going on the witnesses, I'm after a shark about 2 or 3 feet longer than this one and a lot heavier.
The jaws will now be cut out and the disemboweled carcasses dumped out to sea.
They've only ever had one shark attack. I mean, he'd probably do a greater service if he got all the motor cars and dumped them somewhere, because he'd probably save more lives and make Port Lincoln much safer for everybody.
They moved further out to Neptune Island, nearly 100 miles from Port Lincoln, where Ron has filmed white sharks many times before. This granite outcrop is home to Cape Barren geese, hundreds of Australian sea lions, and is also a major rookery for thousands of shearwaters that migrate every year to Siberia.
He's almost ready to fly, this guy.
Isn't it strange how the parent bird just leaves the chick and flies away and leaves it to look after itself?
The parents are out feeding.
No, they've gone now. They should have gone to Siberia by now.
Oh, poor little fella. He's an active little guy.
I think you better put him down.
Yeah, I think I'll put this
flying.
little...
How big does he go?
That's almost full size.
Quite spectacular in flight as the adult shearwater. On land, they are the bumble-footed mutton bird. The manned lighthouse, the most isolated on the Australian coast, was conceived out of tragedy. A monument to a clipper ship that was lost with all souls on a nearby island. On this lonely outpost, there is another presence, unseen, but all around. In the last 70 years, 2 lighthouse keepers have met tragic fates, washed into the sea by enormous waves and snatched away in the jaws of the great white. What remained of their bodies were washed up on some distant island and returned here for burial. The great white feels no reverence for humans. Like the sea lions, we're just another mammal in the sea.
The great white sharks circuit amongst these islands, looking for the unwary sea lions.
Couldn't you cuddle him? Hello, little man. He's a nice baby.
I think the great white shark is necessary to maintain a population control over the sea lions. Otherwise, they haven't any natural predators.
The white shark is the only shark I know of that will stick its head above water and have a look. I wouldn't be surprised if the white shark grabs a sleeping sea lion off the rocks.
The Taylors themselves began their underwater careers as hunters and killers. Ron was once world spearfishing champion.
Valerie was already a diver and spearfisher girl before I met her. I asked her if she would pose for my cameras.
I try and coax performance out of the animals.
She loves to perform, and I'm very happy to sit back and watch the performance. And for that reason, I think we make a good team.
There were always certain species of fish I couldn't shoot because they were just so nice. And eventually it got to the stage where there was hardly anything I could kill.
I realised that the fish had little characters of their own. They just weren't heartless, cold-blooded creatures. I found that it was distasteful to just go killing them for fun.
And then one day in a spearfishing competition, I thought, I've had this. I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm finished. You know, you've got to be so nice to him so that he can feel that it's pleasant.
Back on the Lucky S, the Taylors realise they've been sharing the water with a white shark just 300 metres away.
I'll see if I can pull his head out of the water.
I don't think you'll be able to. You can try.
This was Ron's idea of sport fishing. A good rod and bait with a hookless line. The aim is to tempt the shark to play. Give him just enough food to keep him interested, but not too much, or he'll fill up and go away. Once he is used to them, the shark will stay for days, and they can film him at their leisure.
Come on, baby, up you come.
What we need is a pole.
He got his teeth on the rope here.
Just went straight through it.
Yeah, just went straight through like a razor.
But the excitement is soon over. The little shark seems very nervous and disappears after half an hour. The most optimistic explanation is that there's a bigger shark in the area and that he's frightened the smaller one away.
I've become known as the Shark Lady. Well, I don't want to be the Shark Lady, I want to be the lady. It just doesn't seem nice to be a Shark Lady. It's like being Supergirl. It's just happened that way because that's how we earn the bulk of our living. Not through any particular desire on Ron's part or mine. I mean, they're darn hard animals to work with. I'd much rather go and work with minnows or angelfish or something like that, and it'd be a very pleasant existence, but nobody's interested in their life stories. I wanted to be a tap dancer.
But luck is with them. By evening, there's a new shark, small and lively.
Hello, Sharky!
Right on top.
That's a different one. That's Maria, I bet you.
Fin's right out of the water.
Let me look. I bet it's Maria.
The sharks do have different characteristics. Some are more aggressive than others, and we get to know them. They've got marks on their faces, and
Maria, I bet.
Valerie in particular gives them names.
The girl shark. Come on. Oh, big.
Oh, the first white pointer I've hooked onto. Says there's no hook.
The shark stays for dinner, returning to the boat every 15 minutes or so for a mouthful of food.
Hurry, hurry. Hurry.
Oh, he's coming back. He's coming back. Coming. Pull it up.
That's all we should give him to eat now because he's not a very big shark and he's had three meals now. I couldn't pull that quick enough. He just snapped at it and got it.
It's a very fast shark, Ron.
No more, no.
Very jumpy.
No more to eat.
No more yum yum for
We'll
him.
just put out the chum so that he can
The
smell
chum
it.
and little bits.
It now looks like the shark is here to stay.
Little dirt.
They look forward to a good day's filming.
All the bait to there. Apparently he's gone away. I don't know why, I can't understand it. They normally do stay.
Days pass with no sign of a shark. Not even the regulars come around.
Droopy was about 13 feet long, I guess. You couldn't miss him because his dorsal fin drooped, and he was just a good performer. He didn't just turn up for us, he turned up for everybody. He was the shark out there, and I fear that Droopy's been killed. I expected to see him straight away when we got out there, I really did. I think he's gone, I think he's finished.
Valerie is an accomplished writer and stills photographer with an intuitive understanding of nature. It was her altruism and Ron's respect for the creatures they work with that led to a most extraordinary shark rescue in 1972. The shark had become tangled in the wire ropes holding the cage to the boat.
And he flicked and just wound the steel cable around his body, and then of course he went crazy. We had a mad thrashing shark attached to our cage for about half an hour. But we feared that it was going to die, and we didn't want to be responsible for the death of the shark because it got caught in our steel cable.
Our problem wasn't the shark who was tangled. It was another shark who may come onto the scene and we wouldn't know about it until he'd hit one of us.
Our chum was still working, the baits were still hanging over the side of the boat. At any time, another shark could arrive.
I'd take a chance like that for any shark that was in distress. I hate seeing things suffer. They want to live. They're not monsters out to kill everybody. And when they become entangled, they're just as terrified and frightened as anybody would be.
But I felt that if we left it upside down, it would eventually die.
And then we tagged her, and Ron held its head into the waves that were breaking. They were aerating the water, and that revived it. And I could feel it starting to come to life. It wasn't swimming, but it wanted to, and I could feel the muscles under the skin moving. It's quite a thing to do that for a creature like a shark, a big shark.
It was a great sense of achievement to revive the shark and have it swim away so strongly. That's what really surprised me.
And I know there's a lot of people who wouldn't agree with what we did, but I like to think there's a lot more who do.
But the very sad thing is that about 6 months later, that tag was returned by a professional fisherman who had caught her in the nets.
With no sharks around, the Taylors take the submersible out for a test dive. With little protection, it doesn't seem suitable for white shark territory. Designed as a diver's transport vehicle, its batteries give it a speed of 3 knots and an endurance of 6 hours. The bright yellow colour scheme looks to be a great crowd pleaser.
The great white shark hasn't any chance of catching a sea lion that is aware of the shark's presence. They're so manoeuvrable that occasionally the sea lions, even the healthy ones, will be playing on the surface, sunning themselves, and the great white sharks sneak up from underneath and grab them. And some of them actually survive. Displays these ghastly wounds and the deep gashes of the big triangular teeth. We were diving amongst sea lions at Hopkins Island once, and suddenly the sea lion scattered, and 1 or 2 seconds later there was a white shark. It circled around us a couple of times and went away, and we never saw it again.
This is the shark they've been waiting for. A 5-metre female, the same size as the monster from Wiseman's Beach. The first priority is the commercial. There's a scramble for chum, cages and cameras to try and get the underwater shots.
let this out. No, he didn't like that.
Ollie? Oh, they came behind me. He'll come back. He doesn't joke, this fella.
The advertisement is for a security screen door. And once again, Valerie is cast as the shark lady. The chumming goes on through the night. They are determined to keep the big shark around. But suddenly, they are not alone anymore, and the shark is in danger. Shark hunters from Port Lincoln have arrived.
Yeah, it's a bit of bad luck for us because that boat there is trying to catch a shark. They've got a baited hook out on that float, and if they catch a shark, it could frighten the other ones away.
You can see the red boy, there's the shark.
Yes, he's got a big buoy out there.
He's trying to catch him for sure.
Well, if he catches a shark, it's going to make it very difficult for us because the other sharks will get a bit frightened, but they'll realise there's danger in the area and they could stay away. So we've just got to hope that he doesn't catch one.
The Taylors are reminded that they are the outsiders, shooting only with a camera, baiting sharks without hooks.
I don't like to see sharks just caught for the fun of it. I don't think you should amuse yourself at the expense of a wild animal. That's all these guys are trying to do, just big note themselves or on some sort of an ego trip. But there won't be much sport in that. He's got a very heavy line onto a buoy and the shark won't have any chance. If he takes that hook, he's a goner.
The next morning, the boat is gone, and so is the shark. Even a passing spotter plane can't confirm if the shark has been caught.
You couldn't see no shark anywhere back there.
No, nothing at all, man.
Perhaps the carcass is on the bottom. For 5 days, they keep up their efforts and try to hide their doubts. Like the ancient mariner, someone had killed the albatross. Even the elements are against them.
What's the weather doing? What did you hear back there?
Pressure formed about a week here on me. Only pressure formed down there.
Yeah, Roger. Roger. Yeah, that's pretty miserable down here.
I don't know what to think about the lack of sharks. We've never had it happen before. And we're doing exactly what we always do, except we're doing more of it. More bait, more oil, more everything.
We've been here in very poor conditions around this time of the year also, and we've had sharks in rough conditions, that rough that we've not been able to dive with them.
I wake up every morning thinking he's going to be here. I'm disappointed, all right. And I'm a bit puzzled.
After the storm, there are hundreds of stowaways on board. They'd been waiting for a wind to begin their long migration to Siberia, but got more than they'd bargained for.
Okay, let's go.
The shearwaters are on their way, and it seems the sharks have gone as well.
Because they're not stupid, you know, sharks. They have a very strong instinct of survival, and they're just doing what nature intended them to do, stay away from a potentially dangerous situation.
I feel it's because sharks have been caught and dumped in this area. And we've known for a long time now that the best repellent is a decaying shark carcass. The shark meshing program works on this same theory. The mesh catches an unwary shark, it dies very quickly and decays, and other sharks either stay away or are frightened when they're in that area.
Before the shark meshing program was introduced to Sydney beaches in 1937, there was an average of 5 attacks a year. There has not been one since.
There is something about a decaying shark carcass that acts as a powerful repellent, and I'd like to find out what it is.
How do you think we could go about that?
Well, we could go to the Coral Sea to experiment with the tropical sharks.
And so the assignment takes a new turn. A week later, the Taylors are back in the Coral Sea to put Ron's theory to the test, to see what effect a dead shark has on the behaviour of live sharks. Could it be possible that an effective shark repellent could be synthesised? It was a fascinating challenge that not only interested the Taylors, but brought the United States Navy shark researcher, Dr. C. Scott Johnson, across the Pacific to observe the experiments. It was here in the Coral Sea, 43 years ago, that the Americans and the Australians had fought the Japanese in a famous sea battle. In the water beneath them, both sides shared a common enemy. And worst of all was the tiger shark.
Hello. Hello. At last.
Was that a good flight?
Oh, very, very long flight. There we go. Finally.
Finally here, eh?
Got here. Ron.
Well,
oh, great to see you
welcome to the
again.
Great Barrier Reef.
Like Ron and Valerie Taylor, Dr. Scott Johnson is a member of an exclusive club whose lives revolve around the shark.
We can't guarantee much, but we can guarantee sharks.
Well, that's the most important part.
And clear water, we can guarantee.
Scott has made the extraordinary career step from nuclear scientist to shark expert. Today, the US Navy is interested not only in propellants, but in understanding more about the extraordinary sensory abilities and the navigational systems used by the sharks. The sharks swim right through the old World War II repellent. According to shark researchers, there is nothing that will deter a shark in a feeding frenzy. 2 sharks were caught for the experiment, one to be used fresh and the other to be allowed to rot for a few days. Catching bait for the sharks is no problem at this reef, 300 miles offshore and seldom visited by fishermen.
John, whatever you do, don't go down first with the bait.
No.
Whoever goes in first gets hit.
My godfather, I'll go last.
Well, I didn't say who was going to hit you, did I?
Val goes in first, wearing a steel mesh suit and taking no chances. With a lot of feed in the water, the sharks have to be reminded not to bite the diver. The mesh suit was designed by Ron along the same principle as the butcher's boning glove, to protect the divers against the shark's razor-sharp teeth.
There was a shark bit onto your hand there. He got his fingers caught in your mouth.
Yeah, I've had a real sore hand. A really sore hand.
But you let your fingers go right in the shark's mouth, though.
Oh, I couldn't get them out, darling.
I thought you were trying to get the shark to bite onto your arm.
I was.
Well, I know he was, but how come you got your fingers in his
Well, I
mouth?
had a piece of fish in my hand. He snatched the fish and he got my hand. So I pulled my fingers out of the glove and just left the fingers of the glove in there. But he got a heck of a nip on the hand first.
Yeah.
The mesh suit is the diver's first line of defense against sharks, but it has its limitations with big sharks. Before the first dead shark experiment is carried out, the coral table must be set with fresh fish to bring the sharks around. With bait in the water, the grey reef sharks are soon on the scene. For the Taylors, this is the most dangerous time, as the sharks will strike at anything that looks like food. The aim of the first experiment is to introduce a fresh dead shark into the frenzy to see if it is the sight of the carcass rather than the smell that deters them. The fresh dead shark is brought on the scene, and as soon as the divers step back, the sharks come in to feed. They totally ignore the fresh dead shark. So we conclude it isn't the look of the dead shark that repels the others, it's something else. While waiting for the sharks to decay, there's another experiment to be done. For some years, Scott has been working with aquarium sharks to measure their ability to detect electric fields. This is the first opportunity he has had to try it in the wild. The shark has unique sensors that scientists are only just beginning to understand. Electroreceptors that allow it to detect minute electric fields put out by fish. These ampules of Lorenzini, as they're called, give the shark an enormous advantage when hunting for fish at night.
A human being gives off a field in the water.
They certainly do, and this could be an important reason leading to shark attacks,
right.
Especially if someone's wounded, because it's been shown that wounded fish and wounded people too put out larger fields in the ocean, as well as bleeding and putting other chemical attractants in the water.
One of the less publicised aspects of Scott's work is to find a way to stop sharks biting the aerials on nuclear submarines. The prods put out a minute electric field, equivalent to a fish. The sharks are capable of detecting a field 1/50 billionth of what a human can detect.
And to my big surprise, the reef sharks bit it. One grey reef shark, he bit on it very savagely, let go, and as he swam away, I kept the prod right level with his head, and he suddenly swung around and went again and got it again. They wouldn't normally, in my opinion, bite those rods. There's another sense there that we don't know about.
After 3 days in the sun, the dead sharks are beginning to repel the crew. It's time for the next experiment. A 30-kilo dog-toothed tuna worth $600 on the Japanese sashimi market is laid out on the coral table and the water is baited. Within seconds, the grey reef sharks are around the table and the feeding begins. The vibration each shark generates stimulates the others to greater excitement.
They frenzied. We let the frenzy go for about a minute. It was a real mad scene, but they stirred up the bottom tremendously. They took a great cloud of sand. Then I indicated for John to bring in the dead shark, which he did.
And almost immediately, some of the sharks begin to take notice. For a moment, they stop feeding. But then 2 of the sharks come back to the table. There's still a good half of the tuna left, but the sharks lose interest.
And I saw one of the whalers come around the corner of the table, and he actually bumped into the dead shark, and he flicked back very fast, shot away. And we never saw him. I watched him go. He just disappeared. And then the frenzy sort of died. No, it just died. and then they disappeared. And the interesting thing was they didn't eat all the bait. And normally when they frenzy, they eat every single thing, and they left it.
And then after that, all the gray sharks, the whalers, moved down into deep water, and I looked over the edge and none came up the side at all.
And we tried to lure them back, but they'd gone away. You could see them way in the distance every now and then, and they would not come back anywhere near that table.
Again and again, we attempt to bring the sharks back, but they are not interested, even in the fresh bait. The grey reef sharks stay away, but a lone outsider, a lean and hungry-looking white tip, comes in, almost disbelieving his luck. The dead sharks are not attractive, but nor do they repel the white tip. Perhaps these experiments could be the first step in the development of a truly effective chemical shark repellent. But in the meantime, what else can a wrecked sailor or a ditch pilot do to protect himself from sharks?
Anytime you're ready, Val.
The latest and possibly the most hopeful device is an invention that Scott is developing. The shark screen is as simple as a big plastic bag with flotation rings and is designed to isolate a person from the surrounding ocean.
How does it feel? You're in your own little world there, eh?
I feel very nice. And I feel restricted when I try and swim.
Oh yeah, you can't swim at all.
No.
No, you just have to go with the waves and the current.
The bag is a dark colour so it doesn't attract the sharks, and the smell or the taste of any blood from injuries is kept within the bag.
Feels good.
The shark screen also isolates any electric fields that might attract the shark. Even with bait all around the bag, we are not able to attract the shark's attention to it. Perhaps a shark screen could have saved the lives of 2 people as they clung to the wreckage of their sunken trawler in these waters in 1983. A huge tiger shark circled for 36 hours, systematically picking them off till only one survivor was left to tell the story. For most of their time in the Coral Sea, the Taylors are working with small reef sharks and have come to treat them like others might treat cats in the kitchen. But what happens when a notorious hunter like the tiger shark comes along? On their last dive in the Coral Sea, the Taylors come face to face with a known killer.
And I was looking in the deep water and I saw a shark coming, and I thought, now that's a big whaler shark. And a couple of seconds later I realised it wasn't a whaler shark and it was a tiger shark. They're unafraid, beautiful shark.
And then I saw it come into view and I just started to smile because I knew just how unusual it was to have that happen, and it was such a big, beautiful, impressive female tiger shark. Clean, no marks on it, perfect set of teeth.
And there it was, it just came. She was beautiful, she was perfect. Beautiful stripes.
This is the biggest shark I've ever seen in the wild. I've helped catch sharks that were bigger than that, but this is the first one I've ever had the opportunity to be close to and see it swimming around. It was really thrilling.
But it was one of the most exciting times I've ever had. I mean, we all presented ourselves to the shark. She could have eaten any one. We couldn't have stopped it. It was too big. We had no guns. We had no defence. I'm dragging this bit of carcass that I've got, and I rushed over and I gave it to her, and she took this piece of bait right out of my hand, as gentle as a little dog, you know. Then I gave her a pat on the head and she went underneath me and she just circled around and around. To be so close to this magnificent animal that people call man-eater. If it was a man-eater, I wouldn't be telling you this, I'd be dead. She was really nice. They're all nice. I keep telling you.
Perhaps the greatest irony of all is that sharks actually save more lives than they take. If it wasn't for our fear of sharks, many more people would get out of their depths and drown. Like the beach patrol from the other world, sharks keep us close to the shore. Perhaps the only repellent better than a dead shark is a live shark.
Sharks are just big fish and they make mistakes. And they don't go rushing around looking for people to bite.
I think that all divers understand that there's a remote possibility that perhaps one day they'll get bitten by a shark. I know I feel that way. I recognise that the risk is there and I take that risk.